Well, I would like to welcome everybody here in the new edition of the Performance Talks by coaching partners, Repatriate and Romanian business leaders. I am Gabriel Istoc, one of the entrepreneurs of working with in Repatriate since 7 years, since this project was grounded, and lately with coaching partners. And today we have a special guest in our show, I would say, Mr. Steve Hoisington, that is from United States, a very good friend of Romanians. And we have as well, together with us, Andrei Genciu, that is a Romanian living since 20 years in United States. And we will talk as usually about the performance in all the areas of economy, public sector, companies, health industry, and any other industry we may think about, with the experience of Steve. And very briefly, I will introduce Steve. He's co-author of the Baldrige winning applications. He was selected by the National Institute of Science and Technology as examiner, senior examiner, and examiner trainer. He was appointed by the United States Department of Commerce as Baldrige judge, and he's author, international Baldrige examiner, and author of Six Sigma and change management, including Baldrige, and many other activities that I would like to Steve to invite him to talk about what he's doing and what he has done, what it is his experience regarding the performance of the companies and of the economy in general. Thank you, Steve, being here.
Thank you, Gabriel. The floor is mine?
Yes, please.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity. I had every intention of being with you in person up until the very last minute. Travel restrictions has just prevented me, and I apologize profusely for not being there in person. As I'd spoken with Andre and others, my bags are still packed. I was ready to go. So it's just with the different restrictions in different countries, not only the United States, but traveling to the UK and so forth. I wasn't sure I was even going to make it to Romania, and if I did, then try to make it home. So I'm glad that we're able to join via the Zoom presentation, but apologies for not being there in person. As Gabriel introduced me, and thank you very, very much for that introduction. I feel very honored and humbled, I guess, to when I listen to that. He talked about my experiences with the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award process, and I've been involved with that process since its inception, for the most part. It was originally launched to businesses in 1988, and I became involved with the process in 1989 and thereafter. My experience then, from the Baldrige perspective, as well as employment, is I was with IBM, International Business Machines, for 20 years. We were a recipient, one of the winners of the Malcolm Baldrige Award early on. I helped other organizations with their Baldrige application, which went on to be winners as well. Nestle Purina was one. You may be familiar with the brand Nestle. There was another one that was a division of Cargill, which is a privately held company in the United States. I helped them as well. The different businesses and industries I've been associated with. So I already mentioned my experience with IBM. I also was the executive vice president of operations for a company called Excel, which is headquarters in Bracknell, England. We eventually became a division of DHL. I'm sure you're familiar with the DHL brand. So I was with them for a period of time. I joined a company out of Chicago that made locomotives or trains, freight locomotives. It was a part of General Motors at the time. And then they sent me to South Africa, and I was president of our company in South Africa. And then Caterpillar purchased the company, and so I was then a member of Caterpillar's team. Caterpillar sent me to India, and I was vice president of India operations for Caterpillar. So I have international business experience. I also am retired from the U.S. military, and my experiences in the military primarily had to do with hospital food service and healthcare. So I try to say I've got experience from a government perspective, obviously from an industry perspective, healthcare, and I serve right now on the board of directors for the University of Wisconsin in Menominee, Wisconsin, which is Andre is a professor there. So I've got obviously some experience as well in education. So I think I can speak for different sectors, not just manufacturing, although I have a strong manufacturing and service background.
Thank you very much, Steve. This is great. And you mentioned Andrei, he's in the University of Wisconsin. And Andrei, he's a Romanian since 20 years in USA. I would like to invite him to present himself as well as part of this our exchange of experience based for the performance of Romanians abroad. The floor is yours, Andrei.
Thank you so much, Gabriel, și bună seara tuturor. It's such a great pleasure to be here. Very briefly, I'll tell a little bit of my story, how I got to meet Steve and our Baldrige and the performance excellence journey, how it started about 2-3 years ago. I went to University of Bucharest. I went to the mathematics department there. So I graduated from the Faculty of Mathematics in Romania. Then I have a master's from the National School of Political Science and Administration, a master's in management. And then in 2006, I received my doctorate in United States. And ever since 2006, I've been teaching at several universities across United States, University of Alaska in Alaska, another university in Oklahoma. And in the last 8 years, I've been a faculty with University of Wisconsin Stout. And one of the main reasons I joined this university and I teach mathematics for them and I do research and was the fact that University of Wisconsin Stout is the only institution, the only 4-year university in the United States that won the prestigious Baldrige Award. So no other university in the United States won this award, and it's something that we are very, very proud. And we like to think that this is something that truly transformed our university, which leads to how I met Steve. And it's one of those stories that it was meant to be. I was at training that Steve was coordinating. He was the main trainer there, the main coordinator of the whole training process. So he hears that I am from University of Wisconsin Stout. He hears that I'm Romanian, but I didn't know much about Steve. And he just comes to me and says, "Bună, Andrei." And so I was, how does he know Romanian and what's his story? So one thing led to another. He told me he's been very attached to Romania, traveled to Romania, the connection with the University of Wisconsin Stout. And that was just the beginning for both of us to keep talking and be involved in the process of evaluating and examining and training others when it comes to the Baldrige philosophy. But the Baldrige Award, by the way, it's the only presidential award that is issued in the United States. There is no other presidential award for performance excellence. It's the only one. And as Steve mentioned, it started in 1988 and 1989. Steve and I then have been part of this process of evaluating and examining applications for several organizations. Steve has always been a mentor for me in this process, and it only came as a natural step in these discussions and in this overall strategy, if you want. When are we gonna start implementing the Baldrige philosophy in Romania? How can we get the Baldrige philosophy? How can the Romanian organizations and companies benefit from this? We started last year. We wanted to be in person. I wanted to be there. I still want to be there. I told Steve, maybe the advantage, the one little advantage of him not being there is that we'll both go next time. So we'll plan so that both of us will be there. One last thing before I pass the floor. Steve is one of the most humble people I know, and he truly mentioned just a few things about himself. His career is absolutely outstanding, and he truly is a pioneer when it comes to the Baldrige framework and the Baldrige philosophy. He's one of the most thought out consultants all over the world. He worked with people involved in the Tata group in India, which that company tells everybody that they owe their success to implementing the Baldrige philosophy. I can only speak volumes of Steve, and I am absolutely honored to call him my friend and my mentor. I'll pass the floor to you, Gabriel.
Thank you, Andre. I'm grateful to you and to Steve being here. So I'm very, very grateful that I am an honor to talk to you and to Steve. And I would like to let our audience to understand a little bit the philosophy of Baldrige. What is Baldrige, when it started, and how it went to the line to be the only presidential award regarding the performance excellence, and how it gets to it. So we would like to learn as much as possible to find out. And Steve, please, you are invited. And please, everybody, if you have a question, please write it in chat or on Facebook, and let us know somehow. Your questions are very valuable. Steve?
Okay, well, thank you again, Gabriel. I don't know if I mentioned in my introduction that I am officially retired, although I still do consulting on the side. And so I wouldn't, if you see previous photos of me, it's probably a lot more polished executive view, but people say, how long have you been retired? And I say, it's this long I've been retired. So first time in my life, I've been able to let my hair grow and a little bit of stuff on my face. So don't let my appearance detract, I guess, from the information and my experience that I've had in the past. So I would consider myself a quality professional, not just quality, but more from an operations perspective. And I've been involved in the field of quality a good portion of my life, and having gained lots of different experiences, a lot of different tools and techniques. I haven't found anything that's better or more comprehensive to use for any size or any type of organization than the Malcolm Baldrige criteria. People will say, well, there's Six Sigma as an example, or there's Lean. I'm certified in both Lean and Six Sigma. It's all part of what's contained within the framework the Malcolm Baldrige process. Take any other tool or technique. There's leadership. You can read all the leadership books you want. So you've got Jim Collins, you've got Jack Welch, G.E. Way, and so forth. All the leadership principles and concepts are embodied within the Malcolm Baldrige criteria. So if you're looking for a holistic approach in terms of how you would diagnose your organization's strengths and opportunities for improvement, to me, there's not a better tool out there than the use of Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award criteria. As Andre had pointed out earlier, it's been adopted by the Tata companies in India. And I don't know, again, if you're not necessarily, Tata brand is not that well known a lot outside of India, but think about Land Rover, think about Jaguar. That's now all part of Tata companies. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the Tata companies represent about greater than 10% of India's gross national product as a company. So they've adopted that. Infosys, another Indian company, which is the largest consulting business in the world, also has adopted Baldrige, and I worked with them to set up the process and program within that organization. I've worked with, so there's 100 different other countries around the world that have adopted the Baldrige process as their national quality award or the national productivity process that they use. So similar to the United States, where the award is actually handed out by the President of the United States. It's administered through the U.S. Department of Commerce. Other countries have adopted a similar approach. New Zealand is one that I work hand in hand with their national quality process. I've done stuff through Europe, throughout Europe, and in Europe has adopted what's called European Federation of Quality Management, EFQM. Very, very similar to Baldrige. I did an assessment of Infosys as a company during the early days. They had just also had done another assessment by a team from the EFQM out of Europe. And if you were to look at the feedback reports for both strengths and opportunities for improvement, there is no difference between the two. So some have adopted and changed the name, which is fine. But at the end of the day, I haven't found a better diagnostic tool for an organization to use in which to drive improvement. What you don't get, Gabriel, were you going to, you look like you wanted to ask a question or say something? No?
Please continue. It's nice.
Okay.
I will hold.
Okay. What the Baldrige criteria does is ask a series of questions that you answer. You may or may not apply. You may or may not have an answer to it. At some point in time, as you go through your organizational diagnostics, this stuff will start making a lot more sense. And you'll see this question that didn't apply before now applies because maybe it's an area we should have been focused on and we're just not. What it doesn't do is give you a prescription on how to get something done. It doesn't say do this, this, or this. Different than some of the other tools. So if you take Six Sigma helps organizations drive organizational improvement, but narrowly focused with a prescribed methodology that you have to use. Baldrige asks about, tell me about your performance improvement system. Not, is it plan, do, check, act? Not is it Six Sigma, not is it lean, whatever you want it to be. Whatever fits your organizational structure and culture is what's important to the organization. So you'll never find anything in the Baldrige criteria that says implement Six Sigma. No place, because it doesn't prescribe a methodology which you need to use.
Steve, maybe
Go
If
ahead.
I could just add very briefly, one thing that is in the Baldrige philosophy and in the Baldrige framework, we will see a list of 11 core values, and not even those are prescriptive values. However, it's hard not to believe in those. They're continuous improvement, visionary leadership, focusing on results, societal responsibility. It's nearly impossible to say, I don't believe in this value, but not even those are prescriptive. And Baldrige actually encourages, and some of the organizations that won the award a couple of times, and there aren't that many, chose their own core values. They asked their employees, they came with 20 core values, they voted the best 10, the leadership chose some of them, the whole company chose the rest. And they became the core values of the companies, and they just, not even at that level, there's something prescriptive. This is how you need to do things. So I just wanted to add that to Steve's comments.
Good. And Andre, feel free to jump in anytime. I don't mean to dominate the discussion. And also, as Gabrielle pointed out earlier, if there's something specific you'd like me to address as I go through this time, feel free to use the chat or speak up or something like that. And I want to make sure that the time that we spend together, I'm delivering the most value to you that I can.
Well, I'm sure at some point we'll definitely mention the 7 categories and the sectors within Baldrige operates. So that will certainly help.
We'll arrive there, but I would be very curious to tell me, Steve, please, if you take 3 or 4 countries, you said you work in so many countries with the Baldrige program, and what you have noted, or are there differences, how the approach it is related to the culture of the people, how the people reacted there, that you came to ask them questions and so on. Yeah, because many Romanians like maybe to be asked questions. We have been asked in our school a lot of questions. Many of them we couldn't answer. So, Steve, how it is in other countries? How did you see the work with different mentalities, different culture?
Well, that's a great question, Gabrielle. And I would, you're really trying to define the culture of the organization within, I would say, that the culture of the country norms. So when I would get to India as an example, when I'm speaking with employees of the company, they're typically not taught, nor are they necessarily in the position to want to speak up. So trying to get information from employees about integration and alignment, or what does the mission of the organization mean to you? What role do you have in terms of helping the organization achieve its vision? They're not so apt to speak up, but you can try to get the information out of them or from them. The intent is not to change the culture or the norms of the country and make it like the US. And then not like that at all. It's to try to understand how an organization operates within the confines of it's got, and does that in the most efficient and effective manner it can. So that's kind of a generic way, but the specific example I can think of is norms in India. When I went to South Africa, as an example, I spent time with a coach prior to me taking on a leadership position within South Africa to make sure I understood the norms of the country and didn't do something that would offend someone right off the bat. I didn't want to do that. And so, but then applying the Baldrige principles from that point forward, it's only a matter of trying to understand the limitations, I guess, that might be there, but you've got to work around the limitations. If I go to countries in the Middle East, it may not be appropriate for me to talk with directly or speak with females within their position. again, that the Baldrige doesn't say that that doesn't come back and say, well, you can only talk to these people, or you can only do this. It only applies to certain. It really applies to the entire organization. So you really, what you try to do within the criteria, the first part is the organizational profile. Organizational profile defines what is your organization all about. What do you do? What's important to the business? Who are your customers? Who are your suppliers? What are your strategic challenges? What opportunities do you have? Who are your competitors? So it asks you really to define what the organization is all about. From there, understanding what's important to the organization, we then get into the rest of the questions that are asked on the criteria. As Andre pointed out, then there's 7 categories that then define certain questions. So you have leadership, which is the first category. The second one is strategic planning. So what's important relative to the organization in terms of strengths and opportunities. SWOT analysis, as an example, how's it integrated. The third category, and I'm doing this by memory now, so the third category is customer focus. But it's not customers in the traditional customers that you think of. It also includes any key stakeholders of the organization. So it could be the communities, it could be the because you hire people out of the communities, you're paying wages to people that live in the communities. You're concerned about employee safety and health within the communities. So category 3 being customer focus is not just about what you say your traditional customer that you're selling to or providing services to, but a lot broader than that. Category 4 has to do with information, data, and analysis. So how do you make fact-based decisions based upon data, not gut feel, not industry experience, and so forth? So that's category 4. Category 5 has to do with the employees of the organization. So how do you deal with the employees? How do you hire? How do you select? How do you manage? How do you promote? So how do you deal with employees of the organization? And again, within the norms that you've got within the country or within the culture of the organization. Category 6 then gets into the key processes of the organization. So how do you operate with as an organization? So it's called process management for the most part. How do you manage suppliers? So, what's that process for that? How do you manage the design of new products or services? How do you just operate on a day-to-day basis? That's 6 of the categories. Essentially, what you're trying to do in those 6 categories is define how things get done. It's really about, to me, it's a lot about processes that you've got. But what is the process for doing strategic planning, and what are the outcomes of that? Category 7 is about results. And it's about results based upon all the things you just talked about in categories 1 through 6. So you'd expect to see in the results, customer satisfaction results, complaint management results, effectiveness of your strategic planning process, financial results of the organization, employee satisfaction. So but it's not results for the sake of results, and many organizations operate that way. It's results because of you taking this particular action leading to those results. So the way Baldrige was set up, the Baldrige criteria evolved over time based upon what was happening within the world, within industry, and at one point in time, if you took a look at the criteria and you took a look at category 7, you could say that category 7 looks an awful lot like balanced scorecard, if you're familiar with the balanced scorecard. And they're somewhat right, because it talks about these are the things that are important. Balanced scorecard gets into a couple areas, like learning. Let's see if I remember the different categories of balanced scorecard. I should, but anyway, it looks awful familiar with the balanced scorecard. Let me digress for just a minute, if I may, so you can understand some of the experiences fortunate I had. So when I was at IBM, the decision at the top was we want to implement balanced scorecard for IBM. So this is what we want to do. So they put me in charge of that for one of the divisions of IBM to figure out how to do a balanced scorecard for one of our divisions. So I did all my research on Kaplan's balanced scorecard. Kaplan this, I did research, Harvard, business reviews, and so forth. Then they paired me up with a consultant. This consultant's name was David Norton. And so I was telling David Norton about the research I'd done on Kaplan's balanced scorecard. He said, let me introduce myself. I'm the Norton of the Kaplan-Norton balanced scorecard. So I got to deal, and Kaplan's a professor and takes a lot of credit. I'm the one that does all the work. So I was fortunate enough when I was putting together the balanced scorecard for IBM to be dealing with the expert, the person that created, invented the balanced scorecard. So that's my experience. But again, it's just one concept of many that are embodied within the Malcolm Baldrige criteria. Without being prescriptive, it never said do balanced scorecard.
Steve, it's excellent what you are telling us. Everything is that a company should know when it doesn't matter the level of the company. Yeah, all these 7 criteria, seven areas of looking inside. But I will kindly ask you 1-2 companies to present us when they have been before implemented Baldrige program and what happened after. Yeah. This is what would be as an example for us. If you have Tata, IBM, whichever companies, if you have examples from the healthcare industries, yeah, would be as well very helpful for us for our audience. So
Okay.
please, yeah.
I just jumped ahead. I'm looking on my computer now at some information. So bear with me if
Please.
I turn away or I look funny, but I'm trying to look up some information. So some of the companies that have adopted the Baldrige, not some, all the companies have adopted Baldrige and have moved along on the journey have seen significant operational performance improvements. It's not uncommon for any Baldrige winning organization, if you ask them, show me your results on safety, as an example, go years and years without a single accident within our company, within our organization, because they have a strong focus. Safety is one of the things that one of the outcomes. Employee retention, especially in the healthcare sector, going from the 60 to 70%, because it's easy for a healthcare professional to change and go into a different job simply because of money. So somewhere in the 60 to 70% retention, going up to greater than 90% retention of employees within healthcare. Let's see. Well, supplier on-time delivery performance, because you've got your suppliers aligned with what's important to the organization. Going from normal levels that you would expect to see on-time delivery performance, maybe the 90%, which is pretty good, to levels that hit 99.9% or even 100%. Lockheed Martin was able to get 100% supplier on-time delivery performance of their suppliers as a result of focusing on Baldrige. How about savings annually from we call it SG&A, so sales. So from the non-manufacturing related processes of 17% or more. So you reduce your operating expenses by 17% year over year, and that's been achieved by numerous Baldrige winners, to include Cargill and IBM Rochester. Inventory turns greater than 15. So some of these I understand are manufacturing. Some of those, as I mentioned before, are could be healthcare. I had the fortune of before I just moved, living in Irving, Texas, outside of Dallas, Texas. Irving, Texas is one of the first city agencies and city governments that applied for and won, actually won the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award. If you went into that, so now you're dealing with a city government. You need to get permits. You need to get whatever your trash service, any of that. If you went into the city offices, you'd be amazed at how you were treated as a customer, as a citizen of that government, because they treated you all differently. You were, I felt like I was a valued customer, that my taxpayer, the taxes that I paid, they actually appreciated that for the services that they were delivering. And their customer satisfaction of their citizens, if you took a look at that, was in excess of 95% satisfied. So I don't know, just think about you're dealing with either the local government or the national government as you go through it. How many citizens are dissatisfied or complain, or I'm a taxpayer, you're not spending the money I expect? Completely opposite. I don't know how to, you almost have to live it. You have to see it to say, this is what I want, for my city. This is what I want for my area. Likewise, when you go to a Baldrige winning organization, when you leave there, the first thing you say is, how can I buy stock? How can I invest in this company? Because I want to buy stock because this is a really, really good company. They know what they're doing. They've got their act together. Employees are happy. It just feels different. And
Steve, maybe.
Yeah.
I have.
I would just
Andre,
go ahead,
I would like to. First of all, I would like to ask you, Steve and Andre, both you are experienced with Baldrige. Is there involved coaching in this process?
Is
Let me
coaching?
just jump really quick. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, there is. The thing is, there's a lot of consultants out there.
Okay.
That you can look at, you can hire, you can do whatever. My view is that you need to learn how to do some of this stuff on your own. A coach can help you understand a little bit better relative to the process, and you're going to have your coaches, Gabriel, are going to be examiners that you put in place for your own country or your own company or whatever it is. Your own internal examiners can help you, or the country examiners can help you. They become the coaches because they say, you're not doing this good, and you're doing this good, without being prescriptive and say, but you ought to do this. My caution out of this, and Andre and I talked about this, and there's a lot more people, and there's probably a lot better people out there than me. I'm just not a sales pitch for me. I'm just telling you, pick somebody that can understand your business. Maybe not necessarily understand everything that happens in Romania. That would help as well. But somebody that's lived in the shoes of somebody that has to adopt this. There's a lot of consultants out there that done nothing but consult. They're eager to tell you what to do. But at the end of the day, they haven't lived in your shoes. And I think it's better to take somebody that's experienced both. They understand Baldrige, they've lived in your shoes. They can feel the pain. They can relate to senior executives in terms of how they interact and they talk, and they can also relate to, the first level employee within the organization, because they understand what they've got to go through.
Thank you, Steve. Andre, I know that you wanted to complete. Please, let's see my question, and then you tell me how it is in the University of Wisconsin. Where did it started, and how it looks now after the winning this award and implementation of Baldrige program? So
I'm fortunate enough to have been here long enough now to understand these processes. And University of Wisconsin Stout is one of the 13 universities in the whole University of Wisconsin system. And I just see by comparison, For instance, the way we engage our employees, the so-called engagement session, and the whole process of having everybody engage. Engaged employees are more likely to stay, they're more productive, and so on. And just the overall process of how we run these engagement sessions is unlike anything else within the system. And then, as Steve mentions, we have a certain numbers we look at. For instance, the rate of placement rate after graduating, how many students find jobs. That's something that is very important for our university, and about 98% of the students, when they graduate here, they find a job within the first 6 months. We redefine our profile and became a Polytechnic Institute. For us, this was part of the rebranding our university based on the needs and better understanding the needs of the communities in Wisconsin. So these are just three things that happened. And then some rather smaller things, if you want. The whole idea of sharing best practices, or is this, and Steve would know more of this or details, but every time there's a process that is successful within a small unit within our university, is this a process that we can take and we can implement it everywhere else? Is this something that works now that we piloted within this unit? Can we implement this everywhere else? Can we make it a campus-wide policy? And the thing is to have processes in place for this to happen continuously on a very fast or regular basis. We don't want to wait 2 years to let everybody else know. Something happens, we have the tools to share these things with everybody and implement them. So just these are, I guess, 4 or 5 things that happen within our university, and becoming a Polytechnic University was happened. I think it was about 6 years after the Baldrige Award was won, and actually Steve would know more about this process because he was involved in the process for my university as well. So this is where all these connections took place between me and Steve. One thing that I wanted to add very briefly, and it's also part of the application process, the city of Fort Collins in the state of Colorado, and Steve, sorry for using a non-Texan example here, but the city of Fort Collins, I wish there was a way we could take the application that the city of Fort Collins submitted. They won the Baldrige Award nationally. Like, that's a big deal. You can win at the state level or you can win nationally, and they won nationally. So the city transformed, and one can understand just by looking at that application, the way they engage with the community, the way they came up with what's a priority for them. For instance, they decided not to expand horizontally and just build taller buildings that were part of their strategy. And just an example there. And I don't know, maybe Steve, is there a way we can share an application like that? I know there are some privacy issues there, but
no, it can.
We can?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I got the one for Fort Collins. So I was just looking at when you just brought that up. So let me, if you all bear with me here just a second, I will bring something up.
To me, that was one of the best applications I've seen, and it became crystal clear from that application why a city like Fort Collins transformed, and it became probably more popular than Denver, Colorado nowadays. Tourists go and their tourism just exploded. And I know communities in Romania would benefit tremendously from just seeing the application.
Yeah, let me, I'm going to come back. I think I got it here. And I'm going to share my screen. So I'm assuming that everyone here can see my screen when I share it. And right here. So I just went out. Gabriel, can you see that?
We can see it. I can see it.
Okay. So I just
Yep.
went out, and this is, it's NIST, so the National Institute of Standards and Technology.gov, Baldrige Award recipients. So I just went out and just did a web search of Baldrige winners, and then this is what came up. So this is I'll wait till you see. This is anybody that's won the Baldrige Award that's willing to share their results are here. Now I don't know if Fort Collins is on this or not.
I think they were in 2018. They won.
I note that there are several categories: non-profit, healthcare, public.
Here it is.
All
Here's
this.
City of Fort Collins right here. So I'll click on it's a nonprofit. City of Fort Collins has the profile they have, but I'll click on the application. What was there a particular area you want me to focus on, Andre?
Well, I think, just the awareness for everybody that this is a tremendous resource. I studied this application. It was part of the training process. And I realized why the city of Fort Collins transformed so much looking at this application.
So
Yeah.
actually, Andre, Steve, actually what you are telling us through this application, you are showing that going through a Baldrige program, the performance of the city increased dramatically.
Correct.
It's a better life for the people. It's there are better opportunities. A lot of money goes in investments, I'm sure, and so I believe that it's a good thing to share with us. Thank you.
Yeah. And Steve can talk some more about all the categories: small business, nonprofit. And I would just add, and maybe Steve, you have more information from the Washington, whether the newest category, which would be communities, has become officially part of the Baldrige spectrum, if you want. But I'll let you tell us more about the small business, nonprofit, healthcare, education, and I'm sure they're probably thinking of a new one as we speak. But
Yeah, well, when I first got involved with Baldrige, and they created the criteria, it seemed to be very focused on, I would say, the manufacturing sector. And we, even though there were experts on the original panel that put together the criteria from outside the manufacturing sector, healthcare, I think, was the first to come on and say, well, we want to adopt the Baldrige criteria as our performance improvement methodology, but you need to change the criteria to match healthcare. And I opposed that because I said it's non-prescriptive. If Baldrige has to tell you how to define who your customers are, that's an issue for the organization. That's not a criteria issue. But eventually, Baldrige came around and they created a category for healthcare. Then they created one for education. Then they've created one for nonprofits, and they've created one for small-sized organizations. And so, but no, there's only 3 categories. No, 4. There's 4. If you want to go to the Baldrige website and download the criteria, there's 4 categories. So you've got large businesses, you've got education, you have healthcare, and then you've got small business, nonprofit, and all those combined into one. It depends upon the size of the organization, but and city government falls under the nonprofit as well. But it's not necessarily specific to. There's not one for city, as an example. What else what did I miss, Andre, out of that you wanted me to speak about?
I think that's what Gabriel was interested in. So
Gabriel, We talk about, there's stuff on patient satisfaction for healthcare, which would be a natural one, but also they talk about operational efficiency of the hospital improve significantly. As I mentioned before, employee retention improve significantly, even though that organization may not be paying more than another hospital down the street. When it comes to employee satisfaction and so forth, pay and compensation is only one of the, as we know, is only one of the criteria. So they really feel like they're part of the organization. They're contributing to the mission. They feel like they're part of a team, and so forth. Those things that would be embodied within the criteria, they have a tendency then to stay regardless of what the pay may or may. I mean, they're not going to. If pay is something they can't live on, then obviously that would be an issue. But when it comes to education, it's things like student test scores. It is disciplinary actions. As Andre pointed out, University of Wisconsin. If you go to University of Wisconsin and graduate with a degree, 98% of those, greater than 90%, almost 99% of those that graduate are employed. With that rate. So it's pretty easy talking with parents to say why your students should go to University of Wisconsin because they're almost guaranteed a job when they graduate. So how many universities can say that their placement rate is that high when their students graduate?
Yeah, we have in Romania another issue now that our universities should teach the competences and the abilities and the knowledge for the future jobs, not for the past jobs. Yeah, so that is as well a big change we have to go through, and it's a big topic on the Romanian market. But when you mention the retention in the healthcare industry, yeah, well, there we had a big issue in Romania. A lot of people from the healthcare industry went abroad, and now, honestly, through Repatriot and through other programs, we are trying to tell them, let's come back and change a little bit the healthcare industry, or let's say help them to change and to get to the performance and feel very good here in the healthcare industry, because we need, yeah, actually everybody needs the healthcare industry. And not only what is for us as a business people, as Romanian business leaders, we look of the competitiveness of the companies, how the companies can become competitive and have better performance within this competitive world, within the globalization, within this all around activities of big companies, how we can improve our presence abroad. So do you have, for example, a company that, as an example, a company that you worked with and then exploded, or let's say went in for the exports or providing their services abroad within their activity?
Sunny Fresh Foods, so you're not familiar with them, but Sunny Fresh Foods is the first organization that has won. They've won twice. It's not the only one. They won as a small business the first time, and as a large business the second time. Sunny Fresh Foods expanded their scope and their mission internationally. Sunny Fresh Foods, how best to describe the product they produce? It was called further egg processing. So they got farms, they get chickens, and from they get the eggs, and then they made the eggs into product, a different product than egg that they sold. So you know who the biggest customer is today? McDonald's. So they now they're selling to McDonald's, they're selling to McDonald's globally. If you get a chicken McMuffin or the sandwich you get in the morning, the egg, that egg is made by Sunny Fresh Foods, frozen and then shipped all over the world. Every McDonald's location globally that sells that egg sandwich in the morning. So it helped them better understand who their customers, or at least their desired customers should be, they wanted to be, and to focus their efforts because it's about strategic planning and then aligning everything around the strategic planning. Not just a matter of saying I want to expand internationally. I'm working with a company right now in Wisconsin, and they want to expand their business internationally. And so what have they done? They've hired people that speak Spanish and speak, German and likewise, but they're U.S. citizens. So just because you can speak Spanish, what do you know about countries in Latin American culture and what you need to do in order to sell? Or if you're gonna expand your business into Germany, what do you understand about the German culture? Not just you can speak the language. So it's you have to it gets you to think through all the stuff that would be required in order to execute your strategies and your strategic plans. And so those are two examples I can think of. But while I'll digress off from the question you just asked, because I wanted to make sure I talk about this company in Wisconsin that I've also been working with. So during the pandemic, they suffered like every other company out there because people couldn't come to work and so forth. Guess what they did? Their sales increased by more than 25% during the pandemic. They didn't shut their operations down. They're not having any supply chain issues relative to their suppliers, and they're very, very stringent relative to where they get their supply and the requirements that suppliers have to meet in order to. So they're in it's called nutraceuticals. It's a vitamin supplement. The best way to describe it, really get mad at me if that's the way I describe it. It is proving mixtures of stuff that actually improve your health, but it doesn't fit the medicine categories. In other words, it's not a prescription. So people continue to come into work. They shifted because one of the core values is flexibility and agility. So they took management and so forth that end up working in the production area in order to keep things going. Because of this solid relationship they had with their suppliers, again, based upon Baldrige. Baldrige is who are your partners and how are you dealing with your partners? And suppliers are key to that. So they need to be part of that organization. They're not really having any supply chain issues, and their competitors are. And their competitors, their sales suffered. So think about if you embody the principles that Baldrige has contained within the criteria, and you really take this seriously, profound effects it can have to anything that happens within. I mean, you can never predict everything that's going to happen, Gabriel. But flexibility and agility, that the stronger you focus on that, and the stronger you are on strategic planning, the stronger you can be when the situation might come up.
Yeah, that these are the moments everywhere and every time when a performance program like Baldrige, like any other, not like any other else, but like any other programs, helps companies to survive and to grow within the crisis. I don't know if there is any question. I haven't seen any there, because we still have 1 minute to go. Steve, what should a company or an administration in Romania do to go through this program?
I would, great question. Download the criteria and take a look at the type of questions that are being asked in the criteria to better understand. The booklet is available on the NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology site. And so download it and read it cover to cover. And just understand, it'll be complex, it'll be complicated, but they try to include everything that's in there. So if I don't understand a particular term, the term is defined. So I would just say that so you understand, and you're gonna come away with man, this is a lot of work. And I'm not gonna suggest that this is not a lot of work. And this also isn't a point in time. It's going to be a journey you have to go through, because when you're talking about performance excellence, you're talking about a desired state you may or may not ever achieve, but that's really your vision in terms of what you're trying to get to. So think of, I don't like people saying this is a journey and it never ends, but there's checkpoints along the way that you're going to see that I've made improvements, or I fixed this process, or I did, where I had 15 things to work on, now I've got 12. I'm getting better, but I'm not there yet. So download the criteria. If for some reason you have problems with downloading the criteria, I happen to have online copies. I'd be glad to share with you. Send to you, Gabriel, if you wanted to distribute to people.
Yes.
In honesty, I had 2 bags packed. They're still packed. But I had 2 bags packed to come to Romania, which is an issue because you're only supposed to bring 1 bag, one check. One was my clothes, and the other one was all the materials that I planned on, sharing with you and leaving behind and so forth. So I'm glad to share, and I know we're over time. I'm glad to share with you anything I've got. I've got examiner training materials. I've got organizational training materials. I've got the criteria. I've got previous applications. Anything that you would want or need to help you as a country, to help you as an organization on this journey, I'm willing to help in any way I can.
Thank you very much. Because our time is almost off, it's even off. What would you like to add as the last 2 words, Andrei?
Just wanted to thank you for putting this together, to thank Repatria, to say hello to Marius and everybody, all my friends that I've known for more than 25 years. But I would definitely end with thanking Steve so much. He truly is a great friend to Romania. I'm honored to call him friend, an extraordinary resource, and his willingness to be part of the process of helping Romanian organizations and our country is just unbelievable. So thank you so much, Steve. Hope to see you soon in person.
Yeah, in the United States, you can see each other without problem.
Yeah.
But you are welcome to come as fast as possible in Romania to help some companies here, some areas to get to a better performance.
And I'll let you know if I'm going to be. I've been invited again. I don't know how travel restrictions are going to impact my travel, but at Christmas time. So Andre didn't tell you that I have a Romanian girlfriend.
Okay.
And she's. I haven't seen her. It'll be 2 years this Christmas that we've physically seen each other. So she's invited me again to obviously her family's invited me to spend Christmas in Romania, and if that comes to fruition, then I'll make sure I'll allow extra time and let people know that I'll be there.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Andrei, for thinking back such long time being away from Romania in the name of Repatriate and Romanians, thinking back that Romania can go better and make a better performance. And I honestly honor you and Steve, and I'm grateful to both of you that you are thinking that Romania can go better and you are helping on it. Thank you very much, and have a very nice morning there, yeah, or afternoon already.
Till morning. Till morning.
Morning. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.